Hi everyone, Stefan here. Welcome to stream number 13. I guess at some point I'll stop counting, but for now, I think it's fun to do. So welcome everyone. Welcome. Last time we was on Friday, was it? We did this guy, the Elephant Man. Talked a little bit about John Merrick in the 1984 film from David Lynch, and as expected, it was much easier to do. I barely changed a thing on him, just a few things, but it's not really worth mentioning at this point, unless you're extremely precise. There's a chance you won't be able to even see the difference between this one and the one I finished on the stream. So that was that. So this time I thought I would do maybe a character from an even older movie, and that is Ben-Hur. This guy from 1959, film by William Wyler. So it's probably, I think it is the so far the oldest movie I would have done. Let me see. This. Yeah, at least at this size. I think I've done small ones. I've done some characters that were from even older movies. I think like Dorothy from Wizard of Oz was in the 30s. I think it was I can't even remember the date. Is it 39? Kind of want to check real quick. I think it was 39 or so. But so far at this 64 pixel size, it's gonna be the oldest character. So Ben-Hur was well, it's funny because it's, again, I think I didn't really thought about that consciously on purpose, but I think this film too is probably, I mean, definitely sits in the top 10 for me of all time. It's very special, very special film. I think I mean, generally I like big epic historical epic movies, and even, you know, the big religious epics, even though I'm not really too religious myself, but I think they just have this this flavor to them that is really intriguing. When I was a kid, it was something that, it was a Christmas thing, you know, when Christmas was around, and there would be a 10 Commandments, or they would always have the same old films on TV, and so because of that, they acquired a certain quality, and they're very much charged with a lot of good memories from my childhood. And I think a lot of people, they have similar feelings for those movies, because it's been the same. I think in the United States, I was raised in France, but I think in the United States was the same from what I can tell from the few years I've spent here. Is, you know, every year around Christmas time, well, you'll have, you know, 10 Commandments and Spartacus and the Robe, or you know, all those ones, but Ben-Hur for me, even as growing up, became really a favorite of mine. I think it really transcends the genre like in none other film. I think it's partly because of the just the sheer scope of it. Obviously, was by far the biggest film done at this time in every sense of the word, whether it is sheer production size, number of extras and costumes and just budget and stars, everything was just really oversized on this film, and it was very much one of the intents for sure. Interestingly, William Wyler, who directed it, he did a Roman holiday, so he wanted to go back to Rome to film. It's one of the reasons why he did this film, but he wasn't really interested in doing the film when I think MGM was the studios. I think it was MGM approached him. He wasn't too much into it, but when they told him that it would put 10 to 15 million dollars in it, which in 2 days with inflation is a crazy budget. I haven't done the math, but it was by far the biggest film ever made. So it was definitely an incentive for him, and also his salary would be the biggest salary a director would ever get, and they even got some royalties on the actual profits of the film. So that definitely made him think twice about whether he really wanted to pass on this or not. And then obviously after that there were other things that came into play, but yeah, really, Ben-Hur is such a crazy project from the get-go. Everything they did was they really didn't spare anything. They shot from 1958, I think around 57, and for a good part of the year, I think probably at least almost close to a year, and they were shooting 12 to 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. Sundays would be for the director to talk a story with the scriptwriter. So they basically work non-stop on this thing. They even have a doctor on set that would administrate shots of B complex and vitamin for the director and all the people involved, because they were worried that they wouldn't be able to hold the distance. And the story goes that they suspected that they actually added some amphetamines in those shots to make sure that the director wouldn't just collapse on the set. It was crazy. And everything about that film was really over the top. It was one of those like Cleopatra was a similar thing, going with the wind. And then later on, just for the sheer craziness of the project, there was films like Francis Ford Coppola, Apocalypse Now, that was kind of had a similar vibe of things that were impossible bets and would probably end up in sheer disaster. But Ben-Hur actually was very successful, and ended up gaining 11 Academy Awards, which is still to this day, I think, the highest number of awards ever that one film ever got in 1 year. I think Titanic, I think, tied up at 11, and I think also probably Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings, I think they combine all three movies into one, which is not really the same. And Ben-Hur got all the not only the technical awards, but also the most prestigious one. They got Best Director, Best Picture, Best male lead, and also Best Photography. I think Best Soundtrack too. So pretty much all of them. And also this movie was filmed in CinemaScope, which is a really wide format. If you know how screen format works, it's basically the way you measure a format is, you consider, if you say this is 1, then this this size determines your aspect ratio. So in the case of Ben-Hur, it was 1 by 276. So meaning that the screen in the actual picture was 2.76 times as wide as it was high. So your regular TV, 16 by 9, let me do, we never know the conversion, so let me do it real quick. 16 by 9 is 9 by 16. That's 211. There's most films during the 80s in the 90s, and even now, I think now they're wider, but they used to be 185, which was the normal thing. But 276 was really big. It hasn't been beaten by a lot of movies. There was actually another movie that went even higher. And most directors, they really didn't like the widescreen formats because it's such a strange thing. You know, they were used to a much more square picture. That's what movie was like during the silent movie era. And this film was not that far from. I mean, it was like 30 years after the silent era ended, so it was not that different. And the reason why historically the producers and the theaters and the studios, they decided to try and follow the widescreen was because TV was gaining a lot of ground at the time in the 60s, and they were in the late 50s and early 60s, and they were very worried that they wouldn't have anything to offer better than or different than TV. It was basically your experience that you would get at home was the same as in the theater. It's just a bigger screen, and so their way of trying to be different and kind of salvage the movie industry, even though they were not really in danger, but they didn't know at the time. It was to try and go for a wider and wider format, you know, and that's what became sort of the signature look of the sort of epic, you know, cinematic experience. But directors, they really generally didn't like it because they had years of experience filming in a much square format, and all of a sudden they were given this very different canvas. It's almost like you're an artist, and all of a sudden you've always painted your lifetime in square format, and all of a sudden you're given a very, very wide screen format or very high format, and then it'll actually change the way you're gonna look at things. Fritz Lang, famous German director who directed Metropolis, actually said, he had a quote, he said that CinemaScope was only good for snakes and funerals, not for men. And William Wyler had similar quotes. He said that there was no way of filming something interesting. It was either trying to cram as many people in you can in the frame just to fill the frame, or it was like a bunch of two people way too alone, basically in a gigantic frame. So but they got used to it, and they ended up using it to their best advantage. Actually, I wanted to show you this, guys. I think it's interesting in terms of since we're on film format. This is the most common film format, so you can see. So this is 137. Your TV, that's your regular TV format, your old 4x3 TV set, you know, the old TV. Some of you probably haven't even never seen a TV like this, but you know, when we were kids, that was the format of the TV. This is the Grand Budapest Hotel. Wes Anderson is a great director, and he likes to do things different than anyone else, and so of course decided to go for a 40 millimeter lens that is actually very square. But it's a good example of the actual format where it all started with TV and early cinema. This was what you got, almost a square picture. Jurassic Park, like I said, 185 was a very common format during the 80s and the 90s. This was very almost all the time. 2001 Space Odyssey, 220. So this is another. There's plenty of them, plenty of different formats, screen formats, are very numerous formats. This is a 239. It's getting wider, and this is our Ben-Hur 276. So you can see already how wide this is compared to this, And so imagine that when back then, when they used to project Ben-Hur on a regular TV night for Christmas, well, that's what you got, that was your TV. So basically they had to decide whether they would frame one side of the track there or the other. I mean, it's crazy how much picture was left out. It was a very different experience, very different. You can see most movies they would. So now your regular TV now, widescreen TV is probably around here. So even on your widescreen, you would still miss out quite a bit, So what they would do is that then they would do what they call the letterbox, which is this. They would just make sure you get the whole thing, but then you would have some black bars on top and at the bottom. And this was a crazy experiment. This was a silent film, if you can believe this. Napoleon. It was a French movie from a director called Abel Gance, and his film was called Napoleon vu par Abel Gance, which means Napoleon seen by Abel Gance. And he was a bit crazy, and he decided to go for this giant epic biopic of Napoleon, the French emperor. And so what he did is that he filmed with 3 cameras about this size and stitched the picture together. But of course there was no screen that could project this thing, so they had to project this in France on 3 screens. They had a few theaters that were able to do this. They had basically 3 screens with 3 different projectors and 3 cameras that would show the actual picture filmed by the 3 cameras, and that would give you a whole 4 times as wide a picture as it is high. Crazy. It's never been done again since then. So it was really something special. So here you have it. That's just a little bit of a interesting fun fact about film format. And the way they used to do this is, and that's also why the directors they didn't like the CinemaScope and widescreen format, because usually your normal film stock is a 35 millimeter, which means that basically it's a 35 millimeter. You imagine the film that you used to put in your camera. It was then this film, normal film for cinema, was 35 millimeter wide, and but those big cameras, they were 70 millimeter wide, so twice as wide. And so what they would do is that they would have special stock that would be also 70 millimeter. But the thing is, stock, film stock, it's still square no matter what the. So for instance, I'll try to show you an example of a picture. Let's say, so this would be roughly my film stock, this will be the format of my film stock. This would be roughly this ratio. So even at 70 millimeter. So when you would film, what you would get is basically this. You would take all of this and put it in there. And so problem is this, then you would lose most of the surface, most of this area. All of this would not be used, right? Put this on a gray. So you would basically lose all of that part, wouldn't be used, because your stock has to be your actual stock on which you record the picture is this size. Can be different, but your camera records this. So then that's a problem. So what they used to do, they had those what they called anamorphic lenses, and what the lens did was that it would take the picture like this, and when you film it, it would stretch the picture in real time and fill the entire stock with it. Right, that's what you would get. But then obviously, if you would then go to a theater and reproject this, the projector will give you exactly this, so you can't really watch a movie like this. So they would fit the projectors with a lens that would do the exact opposite, that would shrink the picture back to its original format, and that's what it's called, anamorphic lens. But those lenses, they were very big cameras, very complex to operate, and very heavy. And when they were doing all those crane shots and dolly shots, it was actually very cumbersome, very complicated for directors. That's why they didn't like it. Plus, they were very expensive lenses at the time. At the time, they had on Ben-Hur, they had 6 anamorphic lenses, 6 of them, and one lens was $100,000, and which was a third of the entire paycheck of the director for the whole movie. So basically, it cost twice as much just in lens alone, in 70 millimeter lens, than paying the director for the film. So that gives you an idea of how crazy that was. So so that's what anamorphic is. And a little trick, if you look at film, sometimes what they do is they used to do have cash in front of a camera and then film on all this, and basically they would mask this part just to look like they were, you know, wide lens, but they were just regular lens. And if you want to know how to spot a real lens, if you look, I'll show you how. When light gets into the camera, there's what you call a depth of field, which is where things are basically in focus, and after that, or before that, or both, things get blurry, and the further away you are, roughly from, it's a kind of a simplistic view of it, but the further away you're from the focus, the more blurry you are. But the anamorphic lens, because it stretches the picture upwards, like I said, it also does that to all the lens artifacts, in particular everything that's out of focus. And so when you're out of focus, you will see, let me see if I can find a good example there. That's what you will get. This is what it does. Yeah, you'll see those all the lights sources that are out of focus, they'll be stretched vertically, and that is the telltale sign of an anamorphic lens. That's how you can tell that it's being genuinely filmed with an anamorphic lens. There you go. See, Same thing here. See this? That's how you know. So anyway, this is kind of like a tangent on widescreen film stuff, but I thought it's always interesting to know all that stuff, you know. But Ben-Hur really, anyway, really great movie. Absolutely love it. Um, that that chariot race was absolutely insane. Cost the life of a stuntman, I think. Many people got injured. I mean, they just shot it for real. You know, back then there was no CG, no real way of doing things other than just doing them, and that's why you had a lot more accidents, a lot more problems on set usually, and stuntmen were doing stuff that was really crazy. By the way, I just saw recently the latest Mission Impossible, and I thought that was really crazy. And the film had a really genuine look to it. It felt real. Everything felt very real. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I've never seen any CG so well done. Like Tom Cruise, when he's doing all the stunts, it looks like he's doing it. But turns out he's actually really doing the stunts himself. And all the helicopter scenes, he actually flew the helicopter himself, and he was alone in the cockpit. Crazy stuff, really crazy stuff. Like I tip my hat to this guy because what he did for this film, look it up, and it's pretty insane. And Charlton Heston was the same. He was doing a lot of physical, but not no stunts. Definitely, they were far too dangerous. They would never let a principal like this, especially a guy of that caliber with that reputation, to get injured on or even worse on the set. Um, so um, so Ben-Hur was based on a book written 1880. I think what I really like about that film in particular is I think most religious epics, they're mostly, as you would expect, centered on Jesus Christ or a certain event in the Bible, and they really tell this from the point of view of almost like an external point of view on the Bible. But the what was great with Ben-Hur, it was very much a story that was not centered on Jesus or religion. It was centered on Judas Ben-Hur and Messala and their relationship and their fallout, but also within this, intertwined in this story, was the story of the Christ. And so I thought that was a really clever, interesting way, and in a very, to me, it was much more of a film that anyone could see and appreciate for what it was. You could just watch Ben-Hur for as a almost as an action movie, or but at the same time, there's a religious component to it, and it's a real sort of religious epic, but it's kind of embedded into a story that I think anyone can appreciate. So I thought that was really good for that, and it's also very kind of a simple story that can resonate with I think most people across generations. I think you can watch now Ben-Hur in the story about a friendship that turns sour and turns into hatred and vengeance is something that a lot of anyone can relate to across generations. So it's not always the case in those films. I think those films, they've aged quite a bit because of that, because the ones that are centered around a very sort of theological aspect of life, or they've become a little dated. Maybe they're not as relatable as Ben-Hur was. Anyway, enough of that. I think I've talked quite a bit about the film, but I really love it. I really recommend is seeing it. It's beautifully shot. It's been restored, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Colors and photography is really wonderful. All the costumes, everything is really incredible. And they've gone to really crazy length to portray that time. They have naval battle scene, and they had those miniatures, what they call miniatures, that they had in a giant tank that they filled out of their Culver City lot in California. But when you look at the size of the miniatures, I mean, they're crazy. They're absolutely huge. I wonder if I can find quickly a picture. Let's see if there is a picture of that. They have those, yeah, in museums. Yeah, look at the size of this. I mean, you can compare to those things. I mean, and look at the wheel. Like this is what they call a miniature, for the battle scene. I mean, they were seaworthy. You could put them in the ocean and they would float, And they had to be really big because too small, they would not react in a proper way. And scale is a very water in particular is a problem because it betrays scale very easily. You can spot that ocean is not quite right. The waves seem too small. It's if the miniatures are too small, it's like filming a naval battle scene out of your bathtub. It has to be really very big, and they would even slow down footage afterwards to make it look like the waves were bigger. So they would slow down the rate of the film. But look at this, and they build I think 35 of them at that size just for this, plus 2 life size. So there was no CG, and that's what you ended up with. This sort of image. Let's see if I can pull that up. Well, once all matte painting is in there and everything, look at that. Pretty crazy. So it's really worth watching, and not just for the effects and all the scope of it, but it's a really good story, very well acted, and Charlton Heston did a really good job in it. So there you have it. So I think we're gonna make this guy. We're gonna make this character. So in the film, he has this outfit, which is he has many costumes during the film, different moments of the story. But this one is a really good one because that's what he wears during the famous chariot race. So that's his chariot driver outfit, if you will. This is the whip, the bull whip that he uses, barely uses actually. He's pretty conservative, doesn't hit the horses too much. That's the difference with Messala, the Roman character. He's actually pretty evil, hits everyone, including horses and other drivers with the whip. Interestingly, when they filmed, they had extras to portray the Jews, and the Romans. And the Romans, they were the invaders, and so what they did, it was filmed in Italy for the most part, and Cinecittà, I think it's called. I don't know if my Italian is right, but it's a very famous lot in Italy, in Rome. I think it's in the outskirts of Rome, and what what the director did is that he tried to hire all the extras that would portray the Jews as Americans, and all the people who would portray the Romans were British, because he would hope that the animosity between the Americans and the German and the British, sorry, would sort of transpire on screen. And also he thought that, rightfully so, that the American public would spot the British accent in the Romans, and that they would feel, that some sort of resentment against them because of that. Tricks from directors. They like to manipulate audiences and actors and everyone. It's part of their job. So let's go with this guy. Create new layer. I wonder if I have anyone who could pose as Charlton Heston, just as a basic starting point, to avoid to start from scratch, but probably not. I don't think so. I guess I could. I guess he's got a good head, and yeah, just for the head, I'm just gonna copy our friend Tony Montana. Copy him over. Let's move him just for scale and whatnot. I don't really have a good pose because, I mean, it's hard to find pictures to an old film unless you can actually screen grab the film, which I thought about doing, but I couldn't find the time to do that. I have a Blu-ray, but I don't know how to grab frames from it. So let's see. So I think this is not a bad pose. So the thing though that I want to make sure is, in the film, when he gets to the chariot race, he wears this outfit, but he also has this really nice sort of tunic or coat, or I don't know how you call cloak. I don't know how you call this, like this blue cloak wraps around the shoulders and kind of wraps around the arm. It really gives him this much more regal, look, because in the story he's a prince from Judea. He's an actual prince, and so even though he gets sort of cast away and then sent to the galleys and all sorts of horrible things because of the Romans, eventually comes back to actually represent the Jews at the race, because they have this big race, and the Romans, they have Messiah is their driver, and that's his opportunity to take his revenge against his former Roman friend. And then he even wears the star, the David star, to represent his people. He's got those beautiful 4 white horses that were given him by another prince in the story, at least to race, so this is the outfit, but this is what he has when the race is underway. This is sort of like the cloak. He only has this when the race is about to start, and then they takes it off because it wouldn't be too convenient. But I really want to have him with the blue because that'll look much better. I don't think I will keep the helmet though. I mean, we'll see. It's not great. It's not a great helmet. I think so. Probably end up with a combination of this, but with this kind of pose, holding the bullwhip, and maybe, or just maybe holding you know, the cloak around his arm or something. I think something like this. So we'll start with this. I think that's probably safest bet. And I'm back in Photoshop, as some of you may have noticed. I tried a sprite, and I don't dislike it. I think it's totally fine, and I'm sure that if I end up animating, I would most likely use this. But as a pure, just to work on a single sprite, a single image, I think I'm still better off with Photoshop at this point. Just faster, you know, more efficient, and this is really what it's all about in the end. You know, you just have to use the tool that you feel comfortable with, no matter what it is for you. Okay. So I'm trying to think. I'm just gonna flip him real quick. And this, for some reason, has this sort of like regal look. It looks like he's holding his head proud. So this is probably a good starting point. And we'll end up changing for sure, but we'll see. Let's go for now just a simple just gonna pick colors real quick, but we'll probably end up changing this to this is good because it gives me a waistline and all that stuff, so I don't really have to worry too much about trying to stick to proportions. I'm just gonna, as usual, where's my other guy? Just gonna really quickly block in something, and we'll see. Trying to be too you know what this reminds me, guys. There's this game called Domina on Steam. I've seen this, and it looked so nice. It's this gladiator game where you train, you recruit gladiators, and it's done in this really nice pixel style, pixel art, really cool. And they have characters that kind of look like they're wearing this sort of outfit. Very cool. I wish you could play this I already played too much on PC, but it's definitely a game that looked like it could be my cup of tea for sure. I'm just gonna separate this arm a little bit for now. So he has this thing. We're gonna have to go darker to make sure it reads the forearm reads against we'll do the trick of the the darker arm for the back arm. So as usual, none of this will look very nice, but it's really just here he has some sort of big large belt or something. And then where's this little sandals or whatnot? We'll assume the cutout is similar to this. I'm gonna quickly check for size. So looks like he's a bit just gonna flip him real quick. Speaking of legs, it's makes me think as I'm doing the legs, and there were multiple actors that were offered the part of Judas Ben-Hur, and one of them was what's his name, Paul Newman, and apparently he would have said that he wouldn't take the part because his legs, they didn't look nice enough to wear a tunic. It's pretty wide, so I'm gonna try and Try to angle his arm a bit. And this hand will be, I think it's too, oops. Trying to figure where roughly center line. Somewhere there. Kind of want to give him some sort of relaxed look, but kind of determined a little bit, you know. How long is that sort of skirt he has? Above the knee, slightly above the knee. Okay. Seems about right. I wish those buckles are nice. I wish they wouldn't be hidden by the arms. I may have to cheat this a little bit, maybe raise his forearm a little bit in order to see this little detail, because this will frame the waist nicely. Even if we can have the little knife, that would be nice. Not sure if we can pull that off, but we can try. I mean, I could go for the I could the thing is that I'm gonna have to have the cloak there, the blue, so this will wrap around the arm too. Not sure. It's a case where I'm trying to have maybe too many things at the same time, so I need to be careful. You can't have too many things, you know. Have to decide what works. Maybe what I could do is what I could do is wrap the cloak around the back, this back arm, and then leave this arm sort of dangling with the bullwhip. So then I would be able to show the waist area and all the nice little, all the costume, and still take advantage of the cloak and the way it wraps around one arm. Maybe it would be kind of a hybrid thing, but I guess we could try that. It's I think I'm gonna try different, maybe a case where I have to try different variations there, different things that are just to make sure that that I found something that works. It's nice royal blue there. I think it's a really nice match. It's a bit of gold. There's definitely some nice colors in this outfit. So like I ought to try and get this if I can. So then I would sort of flip and reverse this a little bit. Might be a little tricky, but we'll see what we can get. Not too sure what I'm gonna do here. The coat would sort of wrap like this. Then you're gonna have his arm, and then sort of and here we have the opposite side. A little definitely going for broke there. Not too sure. To try and understand how this works. But I think on the back arm might be a problem though. I think I'm gonna do this. Let's try something else. Let's try something else. Say we do this. There's shadow. This will go underneath. Oops. This would go under. This would go above. It's hard to picture what's going on when you don't really have a full reference. So then this, okay, we'll have the hand there somewhere. Move it up. gonna have another layer just to plug in the code really quickly. I'm not too sure where this is where this should be. Oops. Very hard to picture how this whole thing works. Wish I had a better reference for that. Not sure. Where this comes from, how it's don't have necessarily to make it extraordinary accurate, you know, as long as you sort of understand more or less what's going on. I think that's really what matters. It needs to be pretty wide and definitely gonna be a bit tricky to get this to work. As you can tell, this is a pretty big mass there. That's what I need to convey. At the same time, still want the character to feel balanced, you know. Now, to make sure that we understand that there is there's some sort of, sleeve, or so it kind of creates the shape of the sleeve, probably is over shadow. It's not technically sleeve, so to speak. It's just wrapped around, so I'm sure I understand this very well. Let me try and I want to try and resolve as many things as possible at the same time to get quickly a decision on final pose and everything. Kind of like this this nice brace or whatever you call this that he wears. I think it's a pretty nice thing to have, and it's a very it does really gives it an antique feel to the character. So I really want to show this hand with this this bracer or whatever it's called. I think it's not a bad, it starts to get somewhere. Like I start to get a feel for what needs to be there. Definitely this, the coat, the cloak, and then I still have some room for to feature the belt, maybe a little bit of gold trim. It's not too bad, I think. I really like this. It's a really nice. It's a good costume. It's a really interesting costume. It's got some really simple shapes, but they're really give him a sort of a antique, rustic feel, but at the same time, it's pretty has some pretty modern feel to it as well. It's very clean, very streamlined, very well done. Big stripes, and then big area where cinched waist. It's really nice costume. I don't know how accurate it is to what they would wear back then. Knowing Hollywood probably has nothing to do with actual costumes of the time, but it's Hollywood. I don't know. I know they did a lot of research, though. 5 years of research for this film, so they've definitely, I think try to stick to some sort of historical accuracy. But this sort of stuff, it's always very difficult because other things, when they're very historical, they look plain weird, sometimes, or they're just not very practical to wear for what they need for the actor to perform. It's definitely a tricky thing to do. A good costume. I really don't like personally when you have supposedly historical or period pieces where the costumes they look really cool, but they look very modern, and I don't know. It just generally pulls me out of the film pretty easily. I tend to like I tend to prefer historical things that look a little rougher, a little more older, or historical, even though when they have to sacrifice a little bit the how cool it looks. Generally, for me, I don't direct, but I think if I was directing movies, I would probably avoid costumes that look too modern. I think it's a trend now. They tend to make costumes look very cool. Definitely very well designed, very interesting, lots of cool shapes. They feel like they're the product of modern minds, and not sure if it's the best idea. It's definitely something that's it's actually quite difficult. You have to make a choice. Oftentimes, it's hard to make something that's both accurate and looks good and is practical and has all the things you need. You see this with even fantasy movies. For instance, I think the costumes in Game of Thrones recently were really stunning. I thought they found a they managed to strike a really good balance between something that definitely, because in that case you want the costume to look like it's not something that is historical. It is a fantasy film, so it has to have this this fantastical component, but you also want them to look like they could, easily that you can believe them. That they and I think they did a really good job with that. Characters, costumes in this film, they looked like um, they have a real historical or cultural background. They have common shapes and materials for the different, different factions or different peoples across the land, and they also reflect very well the different social standards or function. Warriors as opposed to nobles, as opposed to people who were more like workers or a low class. And I think they did a really good job. And also the characters, they was looking for a project. I was looking at actual pictures of those costumes, very high resolution pictures, and I was amazed at how actually detailed and lived in they look. They had an entire team of I was looking this up, and an entire team of 2 3 people, I think, that were the only job was to age the costumes all day long. That's all they did. Take the costumes and scratch them and wear them, and rough them out, and put some dirt on them in the right places, and make sure they look like they've been lived in. Um, and I think they did fantastic. When you look at those costumes up close, it's insane. It doesn't even look like a costume. Uh, and especially with fantasy, such a tricky slippery slope. You can easily look like a guy coming out from Comic-Con, if you're not careful. It can look very silly very quickly. At least I found, and so I'm always amazed when they manage to do things that look like they're actually they're not costumes. They're clothes. They're outfits, um, real armors or real whatever. I think this is pretty unique. The Lord of the Rings kind of started that trend, in my opinion. Back there, they had like real blacks. They hired real blacksmith doing real blades and real, weapons and all that sort of stuff. And you can tell how very much real they look. They're not too fancy or too sophisticated, complicated. They look like they can actually be properly wielded in battle or whatnot. And I think this is they. I think they definitely started that trend over there in what's the name of that FX studio at Weta Digital. I think they already started that trend of putting a lot of care into trying to really portray costumes as actual clothing, not just stuff that looks cool and fancy, but actual part of historical characters, almost like you could believe them, even in a fantasy context, which was really unique. And I think now I look at, oh, looks like he has high heels. And I look at Game of Thrones, and it's almost like they 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 took the Weta approach and brought this to the next level. Really, really impressive. Very, very impressive. If you have the opportunity, I would recommend looking this up if you're interested in that sort of stuff. Do a Game of Thrones, costume or your favorite character, and type in their name and then costume, and then go to Google Image, look for high-res pictures, and you'll see how you see what I mean. It's pretty impressive. Because most costumes, actually, when you look them, I've been lucky enough to be to go in some studios and see some costumes from movies, and this is actually shocking to see how bad they look. Mostly, very often from just checking size really quickly. I think he's about right. Yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah, I was looking at some costumes, and it was very shocking to see how bad they were. But on screen, they do the job, with all the added effects and lighting and everything. Then it's a much more forgiving um, context than when you have to look at them under big halogen lights in a studio, like on display. Then they um, but I wouldn't be surprised if the in that case, if the Game of Thrones costume would hold up under very close scrutiny, under harsh lighting. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Let's see if I can. So here I may have to change the design because there's, you know, the might just not look very good. This is a really nice belt, but I'm just gonna have to change this a bit as long as I can suggest some kind of interesting thing. So I would, yeah, in a case like this, I would not have as many buckles, you know. For some reason, it just looks a little small to me. Just gonna beef him up just a bit. The bullwhip, I will change the color. I think a white is a bit strange. Definitely, definitely an odd color for a whip in my mind. So in that case, I think we ought to change this. Oops. I think it's worth changing. There's something I don't quite like about that arm. I've been been fighting this for a while now, so I think I want to give up quite yet. We'll see if I can suggest this. I kind of like the way the leather there kind of bulges a little bit, does this, so his waist seems to be thinner, you know. It's kind of a nice thing going on. If I can really convey this, but I'd like to try. What I'm gonna do with this as yet, but I think here we could I like this suggestion of different layers, you know, like this strap there and this strap. They're clearly a little bit separate. There's a bit of space between them. So sometimes just having a little kink, a little pixel there is enough for that. Just gonna flip him real quick again, just to make sure I don't lose track of things too much. Yeah, I think the pose is a bit slightly better now. Not sure we need that much blue there. I think since there's a suggestion. Let me see. Also, come on to. Oh. More shadow there. I guess technically, whereas the other arm also has this sort of thing, but I don't know if I want to confuse things too much in that area. I have to you know, we'll deal with that later. the cloak can go quite dark behind him. Probably okay. Hey Julian, yeah, I'm not sure how this works. Well, okay, so there's two different things. One is the alert of when I start streaming, and this is not me doing anything. I can't, at least as far as I know, I don't seem to be able to control this. It's more like the way it works is you decide in your preferences if you want to be receiving an alert, and I think it's a text or email or whatnot. But I think you decide this. I don't get any control over if I send an alert or not. And the other thing is, down below the stream, there is a little schedule that's updated in real time where you can see, when's going to be the next one. And this is just a plugin. It's a different thing. It has nothing to do with Twitch. It's a little plugin that I run, and all it does really is counting a time. Where I decide a few days of the week, and I decided the time, and then it goes and but I don't think it's linked to the actual Twitch account or the alert that you receive. I may have. Let me look this up real quick. I may actually have. I think you're right though that I did not update the time for today. I think I may have still 9 o'clock. Let me quickly. Let me see this, if I can do this in. No, I got 8 on 8 p.m. on mine, West Coast, so this should be accurate. And it says now live for me, and it says the next one will be on Wednesday at 8 p.m. and then Friday at 8 p.m. So hopefully that's what you see. If not, then I'm not really sure what's going on, to be honest with you. I'm really terrible at everything that has to do with Twitch, technicism. I'm not really good with that. I just have to. I think honestly, it's funny you say this, because I was looking at some other streams and how good they are at having all the nice layout and overlays and all that stuff, and how good they are at keeping people aware of what's going on, and all sorts of things. So it's definitely an area that I need to I need to work better. Right now I'm really just pretty much streaming, and that's all. I'm not really doing much in between, but I think I should probably start looking into make sure that everything is a little more viewer friendly. I think here we're gonna make the call of not going for the multiple I wonder. But it's probably not the right time to do this anyway. There's other considerations I need to. I feel like tonight I'm really jumping around a lot more than usual. I mean, this is something I'm guilty of generally. I'm just you see me doing a little bit of that, and then I move around, and you may ask yourself, why is he not finishing something? Why the hell does he have to move around like this all the time? And the question, the answer is there is no reason to do that. It's just me being really undecisive. So in case you wonder, yeah, there's absolutely no reason to do that. Except generally, when you do this, it's a good sign that it means that you may not have a clear idea of what you want to do with something, you know. So I think it's one of those. Well, I'm just not really. Like a butterfly, you know, just going around doing things and then coming back, but I'm not super. Usually I'm a little bit more organized. It's your mental structure, you know, kind of reflects your mindset sometimes. But hopefully, Junior, you'll get alerts in the future. This is and if not, then tell me, and I'll have this is something I'll have to investigate. But I think you're not the first person to tell me this. Someone else mentioned that they were not getting alerts, but I think it's not new though. It's not since I changed for the time. It was just always like this. So I have to look into this maybe. If some of you guys that are watching the stream, there are yourself streamers, and if you have some good tips about what to do, what not to do for a streamer, you know, in terms of like all this sort of stuff, you know. I'm definitely interested in hearing from you guys. So I'm not really. I feel like there's a lot of things that I probably should do better than that. Oh, I wanted to show you actually. Let me show you guys this game that I meant. I think it's called Domina. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, this is a really cool look. It has the sticky leg look, very much like very much reminiscent of what the Super Brothers did on Sword and Sorcery EP. See a bunch of little animations there. See this. Yeah, very fun stuff. I see this guy is training. He's like jogging in place, and so you can train them, and then you can send them to into the arena, and they you know, they fight for you and all of that. And it was fun because I remember it was very well integrated. It was one of the games that started to have this trend of integrating with the chat on the stream. And so, oh, this guy is walking on the embers, and so then you would be you could have your viewers be give have gladiators with the names of your viewers, you know. So that was quite fun, and the game seemed to be pretty challenging. I saw a few streamers quite struggling with it, but definitely a good one. I thought that looked pretty good. I wish they could do that on the Switch. I play a lot of games on the Switch. I think it's a great platform for me, on the go and or not. And this has never been. I don't think they've made a Switch version, or they even talk about it. I hope they did well. This game was looking fun. But anyway, it looks actually less. Um, yeah, it's definitely smaller sprites than I remembered for some reason. Very small. So it's very suggestive. You know, you kind of have to fill in the blanks a lot more than. But it does the job. You know, it does the job. Some really cool animation. And you could give them some better gear and stuff. So Domina, yeah. Well, I like this one. So we're a little bigger, so we can show a little more. Okay, here I'm just gonna have like a suggestion of a. The problem with brown outfits is that they're always too close to skin tones, and it's a bit of a problem to make sure that you read properly, skin versus leather or whatnot. So try and have this little gold band there, this sort of gold trim. It's kind of nice, and I think it might be a good thing to separate the skin from this undershirt. And also maybe give him a bit of a more regal, rich look, because he's a prince after all, you know. I think we can do that. I'm gonna try and suggest some interesting shape around here. Maybe less, because it's always like, like triangle, triangle. So I wonder if I should try and find something a little bit different there, to separate this material from this one. We'll see what we get, you know. A little bit of a design, you know, because I can't really stick to. I mean, I got a better picture for pure design. Definitely need a bigger screen. But at this point, I'm more trying to represent the sense of what I see, rather than stick to, a very sort of accurate design. I think you should have the star somewhere. It's a pretty big deal for him, you know. Represents his people. So maybe just a little glint, you know, ping. So I got to tell you guys something crazy. So I mean, it's not really crazy at all, but it is for me. So Beetlejuice, remember that guy Beetlejuice? I really didn't enjoy it so much. I enjoyed this better, definitely. Beetlejuice gave me a lot of grief actually. I didn't really like making this character. I like the character, you know, no question, but it was just difficult to do with all the stripes, and you know, everything is the same, and there's really no visual interest. And anyway, I struggled quite a bit with him, and ended up doing what I could and saying, well, you know, this is what it is, and hopefully it's good enough, you know, because I can't really make any better. And then I kind of debated if I even wanted to post him on Instagram, you know, because I just didn't really like him that much. I thought it wasn't very good, you know, and I was kind of certain that um, oh, I just realized it. Look at me. This is completely insane. This is the center line, and look at the belt. What am I doing? No one's telling me anything. You guys have to be telling me about that stuff. Come on. Anyway, I'm joking. So I'm doing my Beetlejuice, and I'm there on Sunday. I think I'm like, should I post this guy? It's kind of crap. But anyway, I posted it because it was done, and I think you have the courage to show what you like, and also what you necessarily don't like so much, because you know it's part of the process. And I was kind of certain that, and I don't have that many followers on Instagram, so you know, maybe now it's like 430 or something. But that's enough to kind of give you an idea when you post, especially with the tags, to see how many people like it. And I was kind of expecting him to be to have the same fate as Luke, you know, kind of struggling with the likes compared to some other characters I did. And turns out it's never been more popular. I've never had a character that it was clearly way more popular. Like I had so many likes so quickly, quicker than any other character, and I posted him yesterday, and now he has more likes than any other post I've made, and I made more than 90 posts, and he's at the top a day later, and he keeps getting more and more likes, and getting away even more. So I really don't understand what's going on. I was really curious. I would love to see what people think, you know. Like, is it because they just love that character so much? Maybe it's just that, you know. I suspect it's probably just that, you know. The the popularity of the art, or whatever you want to call that, is directly related to the topic, not necessarily to the art itself. And I guess that's why so many people at Comic-Con are doing, you know, Spider-Man or whatnot, you know, because I guess they like doing this. I'm not saying that they're doing it just to get people to like them, but I think it's very much part of the whole thing that people generally just like, they're fans of certain characters or films, or I don't know, and you know, and they and it translates directly into what they will like in art, as parodies, you know. They like to see the characters that they prefer on and in kind of every possible way. I don't know. I'm actually not quite sure what's the deal there, but I thought that was quite interesting. I was very surprised, because really I didn't think that my Beetlejuice was looking very good. Not that it really matters so much. I mean, it's not like I'm, I don't lose sleep over this. I'm just curious generally about it, because I don't really tend to post a lot of stuff or art, or actually my other art, so to speak, or the other stuff that I do that's not pixel. I don't even ever post it. I don't even have a website or anything. So I'm not. I'm actually not too familiar with how these things work. What people like, and what's popular out there. You know what I mean? I'm a bit concerned that this whole thing looks like Robin Hood or something. For some reason now. I think it's the you know what it is. I think what happens is that, okay, this is a bit complicated, but here's what I think what happens. I think this supposedly gold trim looks like a shirt, a lighter shirt, and because there's this pixel here, right, and there's this cutout again, then it looks like there's a lace or something. So it looks like one of those, and look, if I have one more, even more, almost looks like one of those old Robin Hood outfits where they have the sort of corset, or in on top of the brighter shirt, and you can see the shirt through the laces. I think that's what's going on. Because if I do this, like all of a sudden, it looks way more kind of Roman, or isn't it? I think it does. So that's actually quite interesting, to see how your perception can change based, especially in pixel. It's really easy to get confused. So I think in a case like this, I just don't like that to me it's misleading, this, right? So I think I'm gonna drop this outline and focus more on that shape. And I know it's not it's not his outfit, but this to me reminds me more of the kind of Roman centurion thing. He's not that's not what he wears, but this is kind of like the same era, and I think what matters here is to convey more the time period and who the character is, rather than the to try and be accurate to the actual design that they did for him, if that makes sense. Roman centurion. Was that how they call that? Centurion? So my internet, for some reason, I never drop. I don't seem to drop frames or anything in the stream, which I'm glad for. But when I'm on the stream, my regular internet completely craps the bed. So is it because I don't have enough bandwidth, or do you guys know about that? Why is it so slow? It's like the stream is getting all the bandwidth, but then here I'm downloading stuff, right? I'm not uploading. When I'm streaming, I'm uploading, so it shouldn't matter too much. Not sure. So yeah, that sort of stuff. So I think you get more plain. It's a little more plain in the around the chest area and rounded around the collar or the neckline. Not so much of a shirt, you know, that you can see with a V neck. So I think maybe I ought to just be a little to cheat a little bit there and just take some license with it. I think we can still try and make the star though. Let me pick this color. Somewhere around here, maybe just a plus or something. You know, because it's kind of an important, it's kind of a big deal for him, I think. Or I could do this because really the star is more, when you look at it from a distance, it's more like a circle, you know, like the center is hollow. I think this could work. I think I'm gonna do that. That seems like a good compromise. And then this I could use a different, maybe just a simple outline. Different shape. Maybe a less contrast. Don't want to put too much contrast because it's about the star more than. I think this is not too bad. Kind of gives him a little bit of a something going on. Let's see if we can. What's this again? Around there. It's too close to the skin though, so yeah, it's gonna be too close to the skin. So in that case, let's see if I can do. Maybe something like this, because I think I still want to give him this sort of regal, you know. At this point in the film, he really is. He's a big deal, you know. He's not just a regular guy. He's a prince of Judea. Or is it how you pronounce this area in the world, Judea? He's a prince, you know, and he comes back after the ordeal he went through and going to Rome and coming back, and that's his time to really fight the oppressor for in the name of the Jewish people against the Romans, you know. So I think it's pretty important that we make sure that we get this across, you know. Yeah, I think that's yeah, and I think this, to me, I don't mistake it with some sort of Robin Hood outfit. I wonder if I should go a little higher for. Yeah, see, something I notice is this. Look at a ratio there. Much smaller and longer. For me, I'm the opposite. So there's something that doesn't quite work there. You see? So let's see if we can fix this maybe. Yeah, I think this is a better ratio anyway. I think that's probably fine. It's getting really high. Actually, you see, this goes really high. So I think we can even do this. And then here, there's an interesting shape to it. Maybe that. I think the cloak, I'm gonna go really dark. Just make sure there's no confusion with what's in the front, what's in the back. That's probably fine. We'll find the right color for that right value later, but just want to make sure right now that I don't get confused, you know. So this could partly overlap. It's fine to do that. And okay. Go even a little longer there, probably. And here we'd have some sort of where it would open somewhere. I think for this sort of stuff, I want to focus on more like straighter folds, you know, stuff that looks a little bit more rigid. Actually curious if I can go more shadow in one area. Just shape this a bit more first before trying to find folds or anything. Not sure what I want to do with this thing. No. No. Here it's going to be another case where shadows will have to probably be a little problematic because they'll look too much like the... This will get confusing between shadow, leg, and feet. So I may have to... I think what I'm gonna do here, just for now, we're gonna take his kilt, or however you want to call it, and I think we're gonna go less saturation. First, it's a little more interesting visually than all character all the same, you know, saturations. And I honestly don't know. I don't have an actual reference of this thing. How I can compare value, but I can't compare really hue or color because I don't really have it. But I think it's fine to do that. Those are very earthy, kind of same thing. Same thing, same kind of I think tones that work well with this time period. This will help to get less confused with the legs, and then so that hopefully when we're putting leg shadow, then this will, we're going to saturate the shadow quite a bit. Generally in shadow, skin tends to build in saturation, so something you can do, and it won't necessarily look too weird. Just have to find the right value for that. I don't have to have the same shadow on both legs. You can have one leg that's has a little more. And I think I'm gonna just see if I can just draw a seam. Usually I like not to draw too much outlines, or almost like you know, if you had your 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 line drawing. I like to try and have a minimal amount of it and suggest different areas with just the lighting if I can, but sometimes it's quite useful when things get a little bit confusing. Just gonna do this for now. Just trying to come up with some sort of simple design here, just so that it's because this is a little plain and it's not really interesting. I really don't like this outline. If I can avoid it, oh well. I think having a bit of an angle too is not bad. I mean, it's got a bit of that going on. I think it's a little bit more dynamic than going straight across. And also, one thing we're gonna have to figure out is, as you see, without the cloak, it's a little bit easier to read everything. It reads quite different. Actually, I think it's too long, so I have to be careful with that. Yeah, I think I'm a little too quite sure. Not that far off, but I think a little bit too far there. I think this could be a little lower. Gonna do the trick of one leg a bit shorter. Which one would it be though? Let's see. Trying to think. It would be this one. Just to give him a little bit of a perspective, you know. I'll deal with feet later, but for now it's just, oops, alright. I'm gonna try and make something a little bit better for long legs. And just gonna try something real quick. I'm getting confused here. Should I? Let's see how this would look if we turn the hips around. Oop. What would that do? Flip the hips? No, I don't believe it, but no. Okay, so that's good. Just check. Sometimes I just want to make sure I get things correct. And also, I believe his arm looks a little bit long, maybe. Maybe a little bit too big. That seems better, I think. Cloak will have to make sure it doesn't get in the way of everything. So it's probably gonna be something a little bit tricky to find the best approach for that, but we'll figure it out. See if I can go a little shorter. Yeah, I think we can do that. Go a bit shorter on this. I have to make sure that I found something here that's not too close to value of the for the cloak. So maybe this will have to go a little lighter. It's not, yeah. It's kind of inconvenient that the cloak is right in front of the shoes. So the values get mixed up. I'll have to figure out something for this. So this is okay. I think all of this, not far off. This is getting somewhere. So right on this. If I want to go really dark, maybe for them. Same thing. I think it's just a matter of trying to make sure all the different parts they read properly. So may have to, same thing, may have to take some license with the actual costume there. And one thing is, his legs look very pale. He's always hanging out in the sun, and in the film he's actually quite, he's got a good tan on him, so in that case, want to bring the saturation up for tan and value down. It feels a little more in line with, you know, a guy who's hanging out in the Middle East. Even though, to be fair, none of this guy makes any sense in the context of who he was supposed to be. You know, he should have been someone from the Middle East, obviously. But back then, in the 60s, they were, I mean, even now, I mean, you would argue that it's still something that is a little strange sometimes. But studios, they're sometimes a little concerned, afraid, for whatever reason, to give major parts to people that are not known in since and they'd rather go for an actor that doesn't have the right ethnicity than someone who's you know, doesn't give them any nothing on their, like a big name they can put on the poster. Like, remember, yeah, did you guys see this was really, this was really funny actually to watch, but I mean, it was based on a video game, but remember Prince of Persia with Jay Gyllenhaal? He was probably the least Persian guy you could you could possibly think of, you know. So that was quite funny actually to watch. It's not the best movie by far, but it was just funny that they actually went and did this. You know, it was like, wow, really, Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, he's a great actor. I think he's done really good films, but for me, it didn't quite fit the part there. It's a little strange. Not to get into a debate about whitewashing in Hollywood or anything like this. It's not the point here, but it's just you know, it's just funny. Just defining a bit of arm. So getting so okay, there's one thing I need to supposed to do, and I've postponed this for too long. I really don't want to have no shape for this, so coat is a good idea. Actually, you know what? Let's try and get this to wrap and turn around, because this would solve at least part of at least one leg or some value mix. But I can't have this in front of it. I mean, I could do this though. I could do this, you know. Why not, you know? Kind of, sometimes it's nice to try and integrate things together, so it's a little bit more dynamic, you know. I need to be organized for this, so I'm gonna put just the dark in this layer. And then we're going to use another layer on top to make sure there's no confusion. So this can go in there. And then we'll use this layer. We can move that around then, you know. Well, no, I'm not saying it's necessarily a great idea, but it's always worth trying things, you know. This could be a lot more, you know. This leg doesn't have to, because there's really this it's a kind of a, I don't know how they call this, but it doesn't really cover the entire, you know, body. You can sort of wear it any way you want, then wrap it around an arm or a shoulder or above the shoulders, and there's no set rule as to how it needs to look, you know. So then we can use this as a way to not only to give form to the characters, like you know, this sort of like this sort of 3D, you know, dimension, like a 2, you know, like this, you know, that gives some form. And also we can use this to solve the problem of lag against values that are too close and all that sort of stuff. So sometimes it's just a matter of kind of killing two birds with one stone, you know? Not saying this is necessarily what we ought to do, but we can try, you know. Maybe this side can be a little shorter, you know. Gonna stop there. Oh, sorry. Cloaks, they're nice for, because they're kind of you can create some composition with them, you know. It's kind of a neat way of oh, this guy is old. With him, we don't need you anymore, I think. That's not too bad either. Just gonna flip him. It's been a while. Yeah, and this looks a little bit more kind of Same like the antiquity, this area. It's a good. It could be a nice shape too, a nice kind of give him an interesting flow. Not too. I mean, it's not really well done. It's kind of messy, and here it makes no sense because we're supposed to have this wraps above. So what is this? So we need to figure this out better. But at least it's a good way of playing with the idea. Just checking on size and overall feel. I tend to do that once in a while. Just not to get, because it's really horrible when you spend a lot of time working on a character and you kind of work on your echo chamber, your isolation. You don't really look at, and that's why I don't really like to work on a separate document for every sprite, because you tend to work in isolation and you don't really, and then you think and it might be perfectly fine, but then you bring your new character over with everyone else and they look like from a different world or a different artist or whatnot, and that's quite painful, because then you realize that you spend a lot of time already doing stuff that you're gonna have to undo, whether you like it or not. So that's something I try to avoid by just oh, it feels a little tall too. Something I try to avoid by just keeping everyone together, like a little family, and just checking regularly. It's very, very easy to slip out of style or scale or other things. So let me see. I feel like there is something to do with that, but I'm not quite sure what. I kind of like this actually, I kind of like the fact that it's very straight, because for some reason all these antique tunics or whatnot, I wish I could be more literate in English. I'm sorry guys, and knew all the right terms for this so that I could do the proper search. And but let's say like I'm thinking of the Roman senators. You know what I mean? Like the guys in the white, and they all have this interesting draping there. Like this sort of stuff, and I like when I'm trying to find a good. Yeah, that's a good one. See, there's a lot of verticality to it, the way he holds it, in all this falls. They have a really strong direction, whether it's diagonal or straight vertical, but it's quite graphic actually. All the falls, there's not too much chaos in it. Lots of lines. Yeah, this. I mean, this is actually quite well done. This is kind of obviously caricature, but you see, I think they really got it there. The artist, he understood that It doesn't have to be complicated. It didn't try to do a lot of like complex, fold and overlap. It's a simple sheet of fabric that folds quite straight, and that's what gives this guy this sort of regal look. See, this guy's same. He's got a little draping around the neck, and then it falls quite flat. And I think, to me, for some reason, this is what I think of when I think of this era. Same thing here. So maybe that's something to try and incorporate there. I think this is sort of the idea. Keep it simple. I don't want to compete with the leg too much though. But you see something, I don't necessarily dislike this. However simple it is. And here we can do the same. We can be extremely simple and use this just as a some sort of perspective tool. Could be as simple as that almost. And some guy. Now see, I think something like this isn't too bad. Gives us about little things that we need. It's kind of a bit what I did here. It's not too different from that actually. And I actually wouldn't be surprised when you look at the costumes in Planet of the Apes, the 1968 one, that they actually looked at the Senate, or like Roman senators for the chimps, or for the orangutans, because they're like the political ones, the people they're more educated, they're more refined than, for let's say, the gorillas. So they could have looked at this, for all we know. We don't know. And I think Star Wars also looked at probably some of those costumes from this period in time. For the Jedi, you look at Obi-Wan, like this. I think it's interesting to see how much of overlap there is in different cultures and different way people approach costumes and clothing. So not too sure how we're gonna make this. Need to find a proper recipe on one foot. I'll probably copy it over because they, and then modify it maybe. Kind of want to suggest the little toes, you know, because it's the same thing. That's something that's very much that time, you know, they had the wiggly toes. Let me look at his feet. Yeah, see the toes. See if I need to go a little higher there. Yeah, I think probably better. I don't want him to look like he's going to the beach, you know, that would be a little silly. He's Ben-Hur, you know, he's supposed to be a badass. God, I'll never be able to hit this pixel. Sometimes I'll hit 5, 6 times the wrong pixel. It's gonna be interesting. Is it too much now? What if I should go a little less complicated? Let's see, go back. Yeah, maybe it doesn't have to be too complicated. I'm not sure. Just want to make sure that we don't lose the leg there too much, you know. Let me copy this foot more quickly. We'll go from there. So that's not too terrible. Kind of losing the shape of the leg though, so I have to find a way to bring this back a bit. This makes it to have a lot of shape now. It's not very good. Okay, maybe we'll try and suggest. Oh, I'll use multiply for this because then I want to affect everything like it's a shadow. Just very, very light. Just to try and emphasize the knee where it bends, but maybe a little more. Oh, it's too much. Or should we actually shadow the end? I think I could do that. That's good. Just gonna shadow the leg, I think. Oh. think this one could also be in shadow, since you know the cloak would probably create a lot of shadow in that area. We can do that, just leave a little bit of feet, you know, getting some light. I think I could go lighter, you know, even, you think could go even, only if I want to go that long for the back sort of that coat. Maybe I like this better. Yeah, I think maybe I like this better. And I could definitely, could do with a bit of work though. It's weird. It's definitely a bit weird. Oops. I think it's just, yeah, I think that's what it needed. It's flipping around one more time. I think in a case like this now, his head should be turned the other way. We'll see. Oops. Come on, turn your head. And it's moving. Now, check this out, and you decide. Oh, sorry. I um, I mean, I think I like this the head this way better. And also, now I've changed those colors to give him a bit of a tan. So I think now he looks a little pale in this area. I think we can do the same treatment here. And also his hair. I mean, so Charlton Heston, he was kind of blonde, right? More or less. So I spoke at length about blonde hair and how they look and feel when I was doing look. So I don't think I will necessarily go back or go over this again, but enough to say that even light hair, they should be darker than the face most of the time. So as long as you keep this in mind, you should be fine. So we're just gonna give him a bit of a lighter hair, as long as they feel like they're still darker than his face, then that's fine. haven't done much here. There's a lot of real estate, so I think we're gonna do this better, but for now I just wanna giving a quick shadow from the coat. Trying to find the proper, not too much, just maybe this. Not to go too high contrast for this. Just then we'll go higher contrast later on, but for now just it's getting pretty messy. I'm just doing. I have to be better than that. Let's do this. Let's clean. It's the first thing to do. I know what I could do here. I don't want to break this with something, but I'm not quite sure. It should be. I think, hold on, I think this is, I think it's a bit too wide. Maybe, is it? Oh, maybe not. I wasn't too sure. Oh, it's this layer, okay. Suggest some simple folds. Don't need to go crazy here, but just a bit of something maybe. Just a little less contrast for now. Like I said, I like to paint a bit low contrast sometimes, and then just push the high contrast to the very end. Just unifying flesh tones right now. It's okay, we can go. This was better. Yep. Okay, so that way I'm doing this. I have to, this I'm gonna have to spend some time, I think. Tricky, this sort of stuff. I think I'm gonna have to, this is gonna be so boring watching me going over this forever. So I'll probably have to take this offline, I think, at some point. This sort of stuff can take forever with me. Okay, so at this point, I think I'm getting to that point where I always mention it. I think every time you've seen me doing this, where I start to question my ability to judge things very well, and then so I tend to usually give it a bit of a rest. Well, I will put the character aside for a few hours till tomorrow morning or so, and then hopefully the most glaring mistakes will will be obvious to me, and I can finish that off at that point. Like I never want to underestimate that the importance of doing this. It's very tempted, it used to be a time where I would be reaching that point now, and I would add a shadow, name the thing, and post it on Instagram or whatnot. But I feel like I've learned to temper my my desire to be done with something, and just try and be a little more, just a bit more patient. It's not because right now I can't see the really obvious mistakes that I've made, that they're not there. I'm sure they are. So I think it's I've learned to just try and get leave a day between me and the end of the in this day is usually quite invaluable. So I think we're gonna probably call this now, and tomorrow I will go over quickly the little finishing touches here and there. I'm sure there will be quite a few things that need to be done. Not that I don't want to do it now, but now will be just a waste of everyone's time, because it's gonna be a lot of scribbling. Remember when I said about Craig Mullins, when he said stop scribbling and stop thinking? It's one of those times. It's not necessarily in that case stop scribbling, stop thinking, but it might be more stop doing something else or sleeping, depending on where you are, what time is it. And so that in the morning I can come fresh, see all the little problems, and try and fix them, and then hopefully tomorrow you'll see the or the day after, on Wednesday, you'll see the post on Instagram, and you can like or not like, depending if you like the character or if you like the art of both, because it's still a mystery to me what people really like or don't like. And so yeah, that's it, I think. So I'll see you guys. I'm gonna see you guys on Wednesday as usual. I may try 8:30. Kind of find a compromise. I find that 8 sometimes for me it's a bit early, depending what I have to do in the coming back from work and all. So it might be 8:30. At any rate, you will be able to see below the stream. You'll see that schedule updated real time with your local time. I hope it works. What Julian said worries me a bit that it doesn't get any alert when I'm online. I'm not sure how this works, but I'll investigate. And so Wednesday, you'll see the end of this guy. I mean, it'll be done by then, and we'll start on something else. Okay. So thank you everyone for spending some time here with me. I always appreciate it a lot, whether you spend 5 minutes or the entire 3 hours or anything in between. It's always very good for me to have some people here hanging out. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you on Wednesday now at probably 8:30. Okay, thanks. Bye.